Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and I hope everyone's having a good Sunday. Today we're going to be talking about Ramadan because it is just around the corner. In particular, how to help converts prepare for Ramadan because it can definitely be a really daunting thing. So to start off with, I have a couple questions that were sent to me that I'm going to be addressing first. One of them is pretty basic, so that's great. It will be an easy one to ask. The question was in regards to the fasting time. What are the hours of fasting during Ramadan? So a lot of times when we hear Ramadan being talked about, just in culture, people will say sun up to sundown, which it's essentially the case. But for Muslims, wanting to make sure that we're fasting the proper hours and everything. It's actually between the prayers of Fajr and Maghrib. So between those two prayers, which is actually a little bit before sunrise and then until sunset. So that those are the fasting hours. It can be quite long, understandable, but that would be the correct time to be fasting. The other question that I was sent was in regards to um, it being your first fast as a Muslim convert. And the person who asked the question was concerned because it's their first fast and the hours can be long. Up here in the northern hemisphere, as we're getting towards the summer, the hours are quite long. So I have a couple of points to address here. So the question is concerned, what if I can't make it? What if I can't fast the duration of the day? My tendency is always to say be kind to yourself and Allah knows your intentions, but I'm not a scholar. So I suggest if this is a concern that you speak with a scholar for an official opinion on it. However, for converts, I particularly encourage you to speak with a scholar who is a convert, him or herself, because the attitude of Ramadan among converts, it can be quite different from people who grew up with it all their lives. So consult a scholar who's also a convert to get an official opinion on it. My tendency is usually, Allah knows your intentions, knows whether you're breaking the fast because you're being lazy or because it's really and truly difficult for you. However, that said, like I said, I'm not a real scholar or anything. So check with another convert scholar. However, you should bear in mind that the first days of fasting, in my experience, are always the hardest. Um, I I would say the first maybe two to 3 days are the most difficult, and after that, if you can get through the first 2 to 3 days, I think it will be a lot easier as the month goes on, even in the long hours. And I think really try your best to get through it all because if you stop fasting, if for whatever reason you don't fast, then when you're starting up again, you're kind of starting from scratch, and you have to go through the really difficult first days again. So uh, try and keep going as best you can, just so that you don't have to restart because that's really difficult. As any woman can tell you, it's difficult to have to start Ramadan twice. Um, and although this isn't something that I usually find useful for myself, some people find it useful to think of the struggles of others. Not to, I mean, this was so long ago, and not to, say, oh, I struggled so much, but it's not like that. When I first became Muslim, I was living in Canada, and fasting was I think it was in July, and it's way up north, and so the hours were long. It was like I want to say it was until 9:45. We had to fast 9:45 at night. Um, and then also, more importantly, of course, think of, the Prophet and his wives and companions and how they were fasting during the days of no air conditioning in the middle of the Arabian Peninsula, where the temperatures in the summertime are easily over 100 degrees daily. And even in the wintertime, that's Fahrenheit, obviously, in the 40s and 50s Celsius. In the wintertime, it only, it gets to a nice cool 70 degrees, or, in the 20s Celsius. So, I mean, if that sort of thing helps for your perspective, if it helps you to think, okay, maybe I can get through it because others have struggled more than I have, then try and keep that perspective. That doesn't personally work for me, but for me, I need something more tangible, like knowing it's going to get better. So whatever works best for you, whether it's thinking of, how other people have gone through worse or are going through worse, or knowing that it's going to get easier as the month goes along. Those, whatever perspective helps you along through. But I really encourage you to keep going and keep pushing. Obviously not to the point that you're getting sick. If you're actually physically getting ill, that's a different story. And you should not be fasting if you're physically ill. But, to the extent that your body can take it, I really encourage you to keep going. So for converts, Ramadan is a completely different experience than with people who grew up with having a month of fasting every year. And I am speaking in generalities here, understood, but generally speaking, I feel like when people who are raised Muslim speak about Ramadan in these happy, glowing terms, like they can't wait for Ramadan to start, etc., to a lot of converts, it almost feels like a foreign language. Like, what do you mean this is fun? We have to stop eating and drinking for hours and hours every day. What do you mean this is a great fun time of year? So it sounds so strange to us. And even after being Muslim for over 9 years, it still kind of strikes me. I'm going to be the first to admit I'm not a good faster. And so I'm definitely sympathetic and empathetic to the struggles of especially new converts who are just like, what am I going to do? And I implore our brothers and sisters who have been Muslim all of their lives to be kind and merciful to those of us around you who do not enjoy Ramadan to the extent that you do. And for a lot of converts, remember that Ramadan and Eid can be really lonely times. A lot of us don't have families or communities to celebrate with. It can be a really isolating time. So if you know converts in your area, and it's something that's feasible for you, I implore you to please, reach out to the converts in your community and see if they would like to break the fast with you in the evening. I think as a convert in my early years of Islam, when people invited me to their home to break the fast, it made the whole experience so much different. There's a huge difference, waiting those last torturous minutes all alone to break the fast, or sitting, with a bunch of people. The food is almost ready, you have an air of happy anticipation, and you break the fast together. It's a huge difference. So if you're able to reach out to any converts in your area and invite them to your home for Ramadan, that I'm sure that they would be very appreciative. For us converts, there's a lot of mental preparation, and of course, people who are raised Muslim have to. I'm sure not all people who are raised Muslim love fasting, but a lot of them do. And there is some preparation that goes into it. So this page that I'm posting on about Islam, recently, I'm not sure if it was in the past few hours or the past few days, but very recently, we posted an article. I believe it was a repost of an old article talking about some ideas that you can do to prepare for fasting. And I read over the article this morning, and there are a couple good tips. One of them, one suggestion was to try and prepare by fasting a few days in the month leading up to Ramadan. And of course, the caution with this is you're not supposed to join the end of the month of Shaban and the beginning of Ramadan together in terms of fasting, so don't do it right up to the end of this month. But fasting a few practice days, if that appeals to you, if you think that will help your body prepare, or you'll, for lack of a better phrasing, know what you're up against. If you think that will help, that could be a good idea. Fasting in preparation for a couple days ahead of time during this month. Also, do a little bit of research about the benefits of fasting, both physical and spiritual. I know that we Muslims love to post during the month of Ramadan about all the scientific research that shows that fasting is beneficial for your health. So all you need to do is make Facebook friends with a Muslim, and you'll find lots of those posts. Or follow this page as well. Follow About Islam, and I'm sure there will be lots of posts about the scientific benefits of fasting leading up to this holy month. So there's the physical benefits and also spiritual benefits. It's known among Muslims, of course, that shaitan is locked up during the month of Ramadan. So take advantage of this time to try and. I know one really common phrase that we hear is recharge your faith, which I think is really appropriate. We can't pretend that we're feeling on top of the world in our iman at all times throughout the year. I know that I've gone through highs and lows in my faith throughout the years. So I think taking advantage of this time where shaitan is locked away and can't bother you. Try to read Quran. Try to make sincere dua and make a lot of do a lot of prayers and remembrance of Allah. Make a lot of dhikr and try to take advantage of this time. Find your spiritual niche. Find what works for you. One of my favorite things is La ilaha illallah. That's one of my favorite things to say because it's really the most powerful thing about Islam, that there is no God but Allah. So I love saying that, and saying it repeatedly. It brings a feeling of peace, and those feelings of peace I find are multiplied during the month of Ramadan. So do a little bit more research into the spiritual benefits. There are so many spiritual benefits of Ramadan, and I find this probably has a lot to do with shaitan being changed during the month of Ramadan. When I have to make up fasts during the year, it's so much harder than doing the actual fast during Ramadan. I suppose that is in part due to, like I said, 100 times already, shaitan being chained during the month of Ramadan, but also because, like I said, you kind of get into the swing of things during Ramadan. So I've lost my train of thought on that, but that goes along with spiritual benefits. That's what I was saying. And also, this is something that really speaks to me personally. When I am doing something in my faith that is a struggle to me, and I am going, like I said, I'm the first to admit I'm not good at fasting. It's something that I struggle with. I don't particularly like it. So something that is really powerful to me, and something that reminds me, this isn't to torture myself. Just remembering that fasting is for the sake of Allah. So always remember that, there's you want to do things like get rewards and avoid a hellfire, but the most important aspect of any spiritual act in Islam is doing it for the sake of Allah. So even when you're faltering and you're thinking like, I just want, a piece of fruit or whatever it is, just remember that it's for the sake of Allah, and fasting, makes you stronger spiritually. So try to have that mindset. And like I said, for those of you who struggle with this or are having a lot of hesitation, I get it. I get it. um, I'm there with you every year, and like I've been Muslim for 9 years, and 2 times before I was Muslim, I fasted Ramadan. So I fasted a lot of Ramadan. So I get it. A couple things just in general. Please remember that if you are ill, it is not advisable, spiritually or physically, to push your body to fast. I think that a lot of Muslims have this mindset of like it's some sort of challenge. See if you can be bigger than your sickness and get through it, but that will make you sicker for longer, so don't do that. It annoys me kind of when people just push themselves when they're feeling ill. Remember that Allah allowed those mercies. When Allah gave those mercies, it isn't, they're not meant to be disregarded. You're not supposed to just cast off these things that Allah gave you. It's a blessing. And when you're excused from fasting, especially for something like being sick, but also for traveling, and other, old age, etc. And if there's a mercy for you, then it is an act of worship to take advantage of a mercy that Allah has granted. And I think that's something that slips the mind of a lot of Muslims as the month goes on, or as this happens every year. A couple general pieces of advice for fasting, because I haven't gotten any questions, I don't think, since this started. So I'm going to go off script a little bit and just talk about general Ramadan information. But if you have any questions, please, I can see the comments floating by, and they're not floating right now. So if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer, inshallah. So a couple things that we hear every year, but we ignore every year. How to fast. It is really important to not fill yourself up on a lot of fried foods. It's an ongoing joke with Muslims. A non-Muslim will say to us, wow, you fast for a whole month. I bet you lose a lot of weight. That's so great. Like, what an easy way to lose weight. And we say, no, we gain weight during Ramadan. And it's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. And that has a lot to do with, there are definitely some cultural treats that are traditional to have at, when you break your fast, a lot of fried foods, which are delicious, and everything after you fast tastes so good. So it's hard to stay away from those, but that's where you gain weight, and that's what makes fasting more difficult. So I'm kind of going all over the place here. So I'm gonna start by talking about breaking the fast, because that's the first obvious thing that everyone is always concerned with, because all you're doing is thinking about food. The healthiest way to break the fast is to start with something light, which is so hard after you've been fasting and you just want to eat all the amazing, delicious carbs and fried foods that are available to you. But start with something light. In Moroccan tradition, they have this soup that is often made during Ramadan. I believe it's called harira. And first of all, it's delicious. And second of all, I think it's the perfect thing to break your fast with. It is hearty. It hydrates you, because it's soup. Unless it's too salty, don't make it too salty, I guess. And it's nice and light, but it's satisfying. It's a completely satisfying soup. It's not like you're just eating bone broth or something that's not going to fill you up. It's very satisfying and delicious and healthy, and hearty. So I think that's a really good way to go. If that particular soup doesn't appeal to you, or you don't know how to make it, if you don't know how to make it, you can look up the recipe. But also, um, but I just got a question, and whenever I do, I lose my train of thought. But yeah, so start with something light. Also, fruit can help hydrate you. Don't chug a bunch of water right off the bat, because that can fill you up on water. And I don't know about anyone else, but when I get filled up on water on an empty stomach, I feel nauseous. So that's not a good way to go about. Like, you don't want to feel that way after you break your fast. Just 1 minute. Yes. Okay. So someone was just commenting about how they want to practice a week before Ramadan, so you can get used to it. I think that's a really good idea, but also remember that you're not supposed to join the end of the month of Shaban, and I'm sorry for gutting the pronunciation of that, and the beginning of the month of Ramadan. So you know, if you're going to fast for a week leading up to it, you know, leave a couple days empty of not fasting before Ramadan starts. And someone right now is also commenting water, fruit salad, Gatorade, forget fried foods and rice. Um, Definitely, yeah, I agree with that. Except, like I just said, make sure you don't fill up on water right away. Then you'll be too full. And I know lots of people do that. I've done that. I've done that so many times. I definitely, I think it, in my personal opinion, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a person who has done a moderate amount of research on this. In my opinion, I think the best way, like I mentioned, I think that Moroccan soup is amazing, but a light, hearty soup and some fruit is a great way to break your fast. And then remember, I mean, you're doing all of your eating between sundown and Fajr prayer. So having a heavy meal is not bad, but you want to, but don't overload your stomach with it right away. Like, you know, go ahead and have some meat and rice, but give yourself a little bit of time. Otherwise, it's going to do things to your metabolism. I'm not sure what, but it's probably not good. So, um, you know, break the fast with something light. I think fruit's great because it hydrates you without filling up on water. I know one of my favorite things is to have some nice cold watermelon at the end of the day. So there's that. Um, and then, you know, having something a little bit heavier later on, because, you know, you do want to get your daily required calories in. You know, Ramadan, like everything with Islam, should be a balance. We shouldn't be trying to lose weight by not eating. That shouldn't be overloading ourselves in such a way that you gain weight in an unhealthy way. So, you know, make sure you're eating enough so that you're getting your however many calories is right for your age, weight, height, and gender. But start slow. Don't overwhelm yourself. And I think another neglected, no, not neglected, just not as emphasized area as breaking your fast is what you eat for Suhoor, you know, before you start fasting. Simple carbohydrates are really easy, but probably the worst way to go. I think, in my experience, I think that smoothies are a great thing to have before fasting because it hydrates you, but it also has some vitamins, and it doesn't have to be like crazy fancy smoothies with kale and quinoa or whatever. I don't know what people put in their smoothies. Just a simple fruit smoothies, I think, works. And if you want to throw some protein powder in there because you like that stuff, then go for it. But also try and get some other protein and complex carbohydrates. Those are the things that are going to help your day last. A number of years ago, I made this mixed bean salad kind of thing that I ate before the fast began, and that was really good. Legumes and beans. So if you want to break out the hummus, then that might be a good time for it. And you know, eggs are also a really great way. A lot of people eat yogurt. That's a nice, you know, it's healthy protein, and that sort of thing is going to help your energy last longer. That's the goal, is to try and maximize on the amount of energy, especially for those of us who have a lot of work to do or our kids to take care of during the day, and you need that energy. And also hydrate. Hydrating before the fast, I have found, is extremely important. It can really make a huge difference in how my fasting goes. In particular now, because I have a job where I'm talking literally all day. So hydrating, if you've got a job like that, or if you've got, especially for those of us whose job is to take care of our children and we can't afford to lose our voice, or for teachers also, lots of people, hydrating is key. You don't want to come to 3 p.m. and your voice is giving out and you still have a few hours of work left and many hours of fasting left. So hydrate. Water, fruit juice, smoothies, all really good things to have before fasting. And then of course you want to get some protein and complex carbohydrates in there as well. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on in terms of general Ramadan advice is exercise. I think another reason that Muslims gain weight is that we just put exercise completely off. Now, you probably don't want to do anything strenuous during the fasting hours because of dehydration. And also when you work out, you are supposed to eat something within, I think it's within an hour of finishing your workout. Otherwise, it puts too much strain on your body. So if you are going to be exercising during the day, do it like right towards the end of fasting. But I would say for during the day, for exercising, just keep your body active. If you've got a desk job, try and walk around your office building a couple times throughout the day. Just keep your blood flowing and keep your heart rate up. You don't need to worry about strenuous exercise. I know when I get into an exercise routine, I hate letting it go by the wayside, but if you can manage, that might be a good thing to do after you break your fast, after you have your soup and fruit, but before you have anything heavy. That might be a good time to go, run on your treadmill or go for a run outside or Zumba or whatever you do for your exercise. That might be a good time to do it. I just, for sake of disclosure, that just came to me in my head right now. That is not based on anything scientific, but it just seems like a good idea, and that's, now that I'm thinking, that's probably what I'll do. But don't let exercise completely go by the wayside. Meaning, don't just allow yourself to become a couch potato. There is just now a question if there are any specific groups for Muslims in the USA. I don't know if you mean on Facebook. I know that this particular page is geared towards Muslims living in the West. That's that's a lot of the perspective that a lot of our stuff comes from. But if you're living in the USA and you're a Muslim, one of the great things about living in the West as a Muslim is that our mosques are kind of like community centers, whereas mosques in the Middle East, I can't speak to North Africa or Southeast Asia or anything, but I know in the Middle East they're mostly just you go and pray there, and maybe they have some classes every now and then, but not really. So if you're looking for a community, I really encourage you to look to your local Islamic community, because they do serve as a community center with a lot of activities, especially during Ramadan. You'll find a lot of activities. So, I mean, that's about it. My time is coming to a close here, but if there are any other questions, please comment on this video, and if one of the moderators doesn't answer, it might be submitted as a question for a counselor to answer, or for someone like me to answer in an article upcoming. So please don't hold back with any questions that you have. Inshallah, this was a benefit to someone out there. And, solidarity to all of you who are feeling intimidated by Ramadan or who are struggling to get to the right mindset. I'm right there with you. If I usually hang out in the comments a little while following making one of these videos. So if you've got any questions, please do follow up. And thank you to everyone today for not asking any inappropriate questions and keeping it all halal and about the topic. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Assalamu alaikum.